You are officially Malopython reticulatus. Congratulations. Nature's marketing sells you as the world's largest snake, the man-eater, the scaly nightmare of tropical forests. In practical reality, you start life as a defenseless noodle waiting to be sucked up by the first hungry thing that passes by in Southeast Asia. Your existence begins inside an egg, but don't expect comfort. Your mother dumped you and about 50 siblings in a damp hole. Maybe in a forest, maybe in a Jakarta storm drain. She coils on top of the pile. She stays, but don't be fooled into thinking it's a warm hug. Unlike your rich cousin, the Burmese python, your mother is terrible at generating heat. She doesn't know how to shiver her muscles properly to warm the clutch. She's basically a 100 kilograms dead weight on passive vigil. If it gets cold at night, tough luck for you. Your embryonic development is at the mercy of ambient temperature, meaning you can be born deformed, weak, or simply rot inside the shell before seeing daylight. And when you finally use your egg tooth to tear the shell, the disappointment is immediate. You crawl out at 60 or 70 centimeters, which seems like a lot, but in the jungle is the exact size of a family-sized snack. Your mother is already gone. She invested months of fasting to inefficiently incubate you, and now you're on your own. You are alone in a world saturated with predators who see you not as a future giant, but as an easily digestible sausage. Your first week of life isn't an epic journey, it's a statistical massacre. You're aggressive, of course. You're born with the personality of a caffeinated psychopath, striking at any moving shadow. Let's be honest. A strike from a thin, venomless, muscle-less little snake is as intimidating as an attack from cooked spaghetti. You are pure bravado, and the forest knows it. To monitor lizards, Varanus, you are a protein delivery that arrived with no delivery fee. They dig up your siblings who were late to hatch and chase you through the mud with the efficiency of someone cleaning a plate. Birds of prey see you from above as a loose shoelace waiting to be pulled. Even ants and wild boars join the party. You are cheap biomass, dumped into the ecosystem by the bunch. The fact your mother laid up to 100 eggs isn't a sign of reproductive success. It's an admission of failure. It's nature screaming. Most of these things are going to die, so let's make a bunch to see if one survives. You are part of a waste strategy. From each clutch, only a tiny fraction reaches adulthood. The rest becomes fertilizer or fuel for animals that actually function. If you're reading this metaphorically, since your reptilian brain barely processes shapes, consider yourself a rounding error that got lucky. You didn't survive by competence. You survived because the lizard was full from eating your siblings. Let's talk about your identity crisis. For centuries, you posed as a python, surfing on the fame of your African and Indian cousins. But in 2014, science looked at your DNA and noticed the fraud. No, you don't sit with us. You were demoted, kicked out. Now you are Malopython, a genus invented just for you and one relevant cousin from Timor. You are not the royalty of snakes. You are a taxonomic annex, an isolated branch that evolution forgot in the Southeast Asian archipelago. Your story is one of forced isolation. Your ancestors got trapped behind the Wallace Line, a profound biogeographic barrier that functions as nature's containment wall. You were stranded, fragmented on landmasses like the Philippines, Borneo, and Sulawesi. This isn't rich biodiversity. It's a logistics management disaster. Each of your populations is a closed club, a genetic dead end where inbreeding runs rampant. This fragmentation means what we call a reticulated python is actually a bunch of local populations that barely communicate, evolving towards nothing. If a new virus appears, it wipes you off the map because your genetic firewall is a joke. You are not a robust global species. You are an archipelago of vulnerabilities waiting to collapse because your grandparents couldn't swim to the mainland. And the worst isn't where you are, but what you carry. You are an evolutionary compulsive hoarder. While modern, efficient snakes, the colobroid elite, had the decency to delete the legs app from their genome, you are still running a corrupted update from the Cretaceous. Get an X-ray and feel the shame. You have pelvic bones floating uselessly in your flesh. You have atrophied femurs. You spend precious calcium, blood, and metabolic energy to build and maintain ghost legs that will never take a step. It's like continuing to pay rent on a house you haven't lived in for 60 million years. Your ancestors, creatures like Najash, needed those. You only keep them because your DNA is too messy to do the cleanup. Biologists call your anatomy basal or primitive. Don't delude yourself. That doesn't mean classic or vintage. It means obsolete. You are a draft that nature forgot to finalize. You carry skeletal luggage that serves no purpose for locomotion, creating internal vulnerability points and caloric waste. You are not an optimized killing machine. You are a biological jalopy full of loose parts rattling in the trunk, trying to convince everyone you're a Ferrari. Surviving childhood is just the beginning of your dermatological humiliation. To grow and try to reach that monstrous size that makes you famous, you don't simply stretch. No, your body is a rigid prison of keratin that needs to be torn apart periodically. The molting process, ectasis, is a period of total invalidity. Before shedding, you enter the zombie phase. Your eyes, covered by a fixed scale called the brill, become milky and opaque. Congratulations, now you're functionally blind. For days you are a predator that can't see a hand in front of your face, hidden in a hole, praying nothing finds you, groping in the dark. You become irritable, vulnerable, and frankly useless. And if the air humidity isn't exactly perfect, we get what's called a bad shed. The old skin doesn't come off. It dries and adheres to your new body like plastic wrap shrunk in a vacuum. If the old skin gets stuck on the tip of your tail, it cuts off circulation. The tissue necrotizes, turns black, and falls off. If it gets stuck on your eyes, you go permanently blind. Growing, for you, is a game of Russian roulette where the prize is just getting a bit bigger, and the punishment is losing body parts to dry gangrene. But let's suppose your skin didn't rot, and you kept growing. Now you face an enemy you can't bite or strangle: physics. Specifically, the square-cube law. This is where your body's engineering shows it was designed by a child with crayons. As you increase in length, your volume and mass explode exponentially. You become heavy, clumsy, and ridiculous. Gravity, which was just a suggestion before, now becomes your jailer. Moving this 7-meter carcass without legs is a bioenergetic disaster. The transport cost to drag your belly on the ground is prohibitive. You spend a fortune in calories just to go from point A to point B. Result? You stop moving. You are not an ambush predator because it's a genius strategy. You are an ambush predator because you are metabolically bankrupt. You are forced to sit and wait because your body has no energy budget for active hunting. Your teenage phase is being a reptilian couch potato. You spend weeks motionless in the same spot, not out of zen-like patience, but out of physical incapacity. You become a giant static target for ticks and parasites who love your enormous surface area. You are an all-you-can-eat buffet for mites. Unable to scratch, unable to run, just existing as a stationary meat tube, waiting for food to miraculously stumble into your mouth. Congratulations, you're a giant adult. You reign over the forest, right? Wrong. You are a slave to your stomach, and your feeding anatomy is, without a doubt, the stupidest design ever approved by natural selection. You have no hands to hold food, no molars to chew, and a brain incapable of discerning edible from lethal. You are basically a biological garbage bag that needs to swallow the entire contents in one go and hope for the best. Your famous cranial kinesis, the ability to disarticulate your jaw to swallow things larger than your head, is sold as a superpower. In practice, it's a lack of a safety brake. Since you don't chew, you don't feel what's going down. This turns every meal into a game of Russian roulette. Pythons like you frequently die trying to swallow porcupines. You swallow the creature, the quills deploy inside and pierce your stomach, your heart, your lungs. You die, punctured from the inside out by your own dinner, in a slow, agonizing sepsis. And if you misjudge the prey size, you can't spit it out. Your teeth are curved backward, functioning like fishhooks. Once you're hooked, there's no reverse. If the prey is too big, you literally explode or suffocate with an antelope stuck in your throat, unable to let go. You are not a gourmet. You are an industrial vacuum cleaner with no off button. But let's say you swallowed the creature and didn't choke to death. Congratulations, now begins the most traumatic event of your biology. For mammals, eating is replenishing energy. For you, eating is a self-inflicted medical emergency called specific dynamic action, SDA. Your body enters metabolic panic. To digest that monkey or pig, you need to literally rebuild your internal organs from scratch. Your heart, liver, and kidneys need to double in size in a matter of days, just to pump the necessary acid and enzymes. You spend an absurd amount of energy, burning your own initial protein stores, just to turn on the furnace. You consume yourself to be able to consume the other. It's a system of grotesque inefficiency. And here's the climatic catch. All of this depends on external temperature. If it cools down a bit, your metabolism shuts off. But the bacteria inside the dead animal in your belly don't shut off. They keep partying. The animal starts to rot inside you. Gas accumulates, you bloat like a toxic balloon, and die from a generalized infection caused by your own lunch. And if it gets too hot, you collapse from lack of oxygen, a metabolic meltdown, because your primitive cardiovascular system can't nourish your hypertrophied organs. Eating, for a reticulated python is sitting on a biological time bomb and waiting 2 weeks, immobile and defenseless, to see if it explodes or not. If you were born female, I'm sorry, but your love life has no romance. It's a script of mechanical harassment and physical violence. You don't choose a partner based on elegant courtship. You are the passive prize in a brutal system where males fight like drunk ropes trying to strangle each other to see who wins the right to bother you. And when the winner arrives, he doesn't bring flowers, he brings the spurs. Remember those ridiculous vestigial legs we talked about? Males have turned them into tools of sexual coercion. They use these sharp, bony claws to tick you. That's the cute scientific term for the act of repeatedly scratching your sensitive cloacal region and lateral scales. It's not affection. It's a war of tactile attrition. He scratches, pokes, and irritates you until you, exhausted and stressed, yield and lift your tail just to make it stop. Copulation itself is an awkward, prolonged event where 2 giant tubes try to align complex plumbing in the middle of the mud. You are invaded by bifurcated hemipenes covered in spines or roughness, designed to ensure mating is as difficult as possible to interrupt. After the male goes off to live his mediocre life, you get the biological bill, and it's a hefty one. You need to produce 25 to 100 eggs. This requires draining every gram of calcium and nutrient from your own body, leaving you emaciated even before you lay. When the eggs come out, you coil around them. The image seems maternal, but the reality is physiologically depressing. Your cousin, the Burmese python, can shiver her muscles to generate heat and incubate the eggs. Science still debates whether you can do this properly, but the consensus is you're a broken heater. Your thermogenesis is inefficient or non-existent. You stay there for months without eating, relying only on the thermal insulation of your dwindling fat. You sacrifice your health, lose muscle mass, and become vulnerable to any predator large enough to take you on, all to protect a pile of soft shells that depend more on the climate than on you. And what's the return on this suicidal investment? The ecosystem thanks you for the donation. Your eggs are the favorite feast of monitor lizards and wild boars. If they hatch, the hatchlings are devoured by birds, snakes, even ants. You almost starve to death to produce a massive clutch, not to ensure the future of the species, but to serve as a free buffet for the forest. You are not a mother. You are a factory of feed for more competent predators. You think your greatest enemy is a hunter or a crocodile. How naive. Your true predator doesn't have teeth. It has RNA. You are, biologically speaking, a luxury condominium for degenerative viruses. The most famous and lethal tenant of your body is the Reptorrhinavirus, the cause of inclusion body disease, IBD. And unlike your buoyed cousins who may carry the virus asymptomatically, in you it causes total system collapse. The classic symptom is a public humiliation called stargazing. The virus attacks your central nervous system and shuts off your biological gyroscope. You lose proprioception, the sense of where your body is in space. You start contorting your neck backward, staring fixedly at the ceiling or the sky, locked in a ridiculous pose, unable to tell up from down. You look like a drunk tourist trying to find a constellation, but in reality, your brain is turning to mush. You try to strike and bite the air, try to drink water, and miss the bowl. It's a slow, neurological, and shameful death. The alpha predator of the forest ends its life tying its own neck in knots, turned into a broken puppet by a microorganism that doesn't even have cells. You are not the top of the food chain. You are just the favorite playground of the Reptorrhinavirus. If the virus doesn't turn you into a confused statue, your lungs will ensure your suffering. You possess only one truly functional lung. The other is a useless vestige, of course, and it is the fixed address of Raleighidiella orientalis. This isn't just any worm. It's a pentastomid, a bizarre relative of crustaceans that decided to live inside your airway. It anchors itself to your lung tissue and drinks your blood. While you try to oxygenate your giant body for digestion, these parasites are there stealing your air and causing chronic pneumonia. You are an asthmatic giant by design. And your mouth, the only tool you have to interact with the world, is a bacterial bomb about to detonate. Any tiny scratch during feeding can trigger necrotizing stomatitis, affectionately called mouth rot. Your gums inflame, the tissue dies, and you start producing a caseous pus with the texture of spoiled cottage cheese. The infection eats the flesh until it exposes the jawbone. You starve to death because your mouth is literally falling apart from rot. To complete the package of humiliation, your skin is a magnet for the mite Ophionissus natricis. They drain your blood and cause unbearable itching. Since you have no hands to scratch, your only defense is to soak in water for days. The problem? Staying in water softens your scales and causes scale rot. You live in a cruel dilemma. Stay dry and be eaten by mites, or stay in water and rot alive from bacteria. There is no comfort zone for you. Let's say you are a statistical anomaly. You dodged the machetes, didn't explode eating a porcupine, and your immune system held out against the stargazing virus. Congratulations, you've reached old age. And surprise, it's the worst moment of your life. If being young was dangerous, being an elderly reticulated python is a life sentence inside your own body. Your spine, that engineering marvel with hundreds of vertebrae, starts to collect its due. Spinal osteoarthritis is real, and it's brutal. Imagine having back pain, but you are just back. Every movement to adjust yourself, every crawl to drink water is a symphony of joint pain. You become stiff. That death squeeze you used to suffocate prey? Forget it. Your muscles are atrophying, and your joints are calcifying. You can barely coil to warm yourself, and your metabolism, already a bad joke, practically stops. You enter a state of caloric stagnation. You are too big to hunt small prey, and too slow to ambush large prey. You become a monument to inertia, a 100 kilograms meat tube parked in the mud, waiting for death to arrive, or for a suicidal prey to jump into your open mouth. You are not a wise elder. You are a breathing garden ornament. Besides back pain, your sensory Wi-Fi drops. Your forked tongue, your chemical radar that guides your life, starts to fail. You become a chemically blind predator. The scent of a deer passing meters away mixes with the smell of mud, and you don't react. You starve to death sitting on top of dinner because your nose stopped working. Your eyes accumulate layers of old retained shed, creating keratin cataracts that turn the world into a permanent gray blur. And here is the final irony of your size. You got too big to hide. In youth, your reticulated camouflage worked in the leaves. Now you are a living fire hose, thick and glossy, stretched out in the middle of the undergrowth. You are not stealthy, you are a tourist attraction. To humans, an old, giant python isn't an elder to be respected. It's a record to be killed or captured. Your old age doesn't end in peace. It ends with a bunch of villagers dragging you out for a viral photo or a skin hunter calculating how many square meters of luxury leather you yield. You spent decades dodging death, only to become the perfect material for a cowboy boot in Texas or a designer bag in Milan. Your longevity is not a triumph. It's merely the process of tanning your hide while you're still alive, preparing your skin to be someone's fashion accessory who's never set foot in the jungle. You survived natural selection, IBD, lung parasites, and chronic hunger. Congratulations, warrior. Now, get ready for your true apocalypse, the fashion industry. Your most likely end isn't dying of old age in a burrow. It's being turned into someone's look of the day who's never stepped in mud. The luxury leather market loves you. That complex geometric pattern on your back, which evolution took millions of years perfecting to hide you in the leaf litter, now serves to match a $5,000 belt. And the extraction process is a spectacle of brutality to ensure the skin comes out perfect and elastic. Often, you aren't killed first. You are stunned with a blow to the head, and then inflated with water or air like a grotesque party balloon to separate the skin from the muscle while your heart still feebly beats. You are measured in linear meters and square inches. Your entire life, your struggles, your hunts, all of it is reduced to a market quote. You end your existence being stripped of the only thing that protected you from the world, to become a cowboy boot in Texas or a bag in a Paris display window. The greatest predator of Asia, reduced to an accessory for carrying lipstick and car keys. If you're lucky and your skin is marred by battle scars or tick marks, you escape the Gucci display but fall straight onto the styrofoam plate. Your meat isn't appreciated as a fine delicacy. It's cheap protein. You become sauté, skewers, snake curry, or ground meat for animal feed. The majesty of an apex predator ends at a roadside grill, being chewed for its rubbery, bony texture. Or perhaps your end is purely urban and humiliating. You get too big for the sewers and decide to hide in the plaster ceiling of a house. The ceiling gives way under your weight. You crash into a family's living room in the middle of dinner. The panic isn't one of respect, it's of disgust. They call the fire department or animal control. 5 men grab you, put duct tape on your mouth, that mouth that could swallow a deer, and throw you in the back of a pickup truck while the neighborhood films for TikTok. You die in a cage at a zoonosis center or are euthanized with an injection, far from the forest, far from dignity, just a plumbing problem that grew too big. So, why is it terrible to be born as Malopython reticulatus? Because you are a gigantism project built on an obsolete and fragile anatomical foundation. You are a war tank powered by a lawnmower engine full of viruses, parasites, and ghost legs. You spend your life suffering to grow, risking your life to eat, and killing yourself to reproduce, only to end up as a pair of boots or a funny video on the internet.